Right Honorable Speaker, my colleagues, my name is Dr. Amuda-Kannike Abubakar. I represent Ilorin East, Ilorin South Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I'm from Kwara State. I must say, Mr. Speaker, that I'm speaking from the point of relevance that I'm a veterinary doctor and a poultry farmer who has experienced the kind of economic loss and damage that avian flu influenza can impact on my personal farm when it started in 2006 in Kano. So I'm coming from a background of experience, Mr. Speaker. I want to appreciate Honorable Sagel Sogun for doing a yeoman's job on this motion. I totally support the motion and I appreciate his concerns. In this economy now where we are trying to go back to agriculture, it is painful that we are still having a resurgence of this avian influenza. Anybody that has seen the way avian influenza kills or decimates birds will understand that it is probably the peak of communicable disease in the poultry subsector. I want to, first of all, agree with his prayer, but I also want to make a suggestion, and I want to move an additional prayer. And that the prayer should be that the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, through the Extension Services Desk, should enforce appropriate location of poultry farms and also carry out a serious advocacy on biosecurity measures. I'm just in the process. I'll document and pass the additional prayer to the clerks. But principally, what I'm trying to say is this. Why is avian influenza resurfacing? He said in his motion that part of the problem is because there was no appropriate compensation. If you recall the incidents in 2006, we had a long period before there was a resurgence in I think it was 2012 or 2013. We had almost a break of about 5 years. And what happened? It was because there was appropriate control through the decimation of farms at that time. Any farm that had avian influenza, they came in and they made sure that they depopulated the farm and they did appropriate fumigation and rested the farm. That is the best way to control the virus. Because now, if you have a situation where people are not compensated, a lot of things happen. They will not report the case because they are looking at other people that are not properly compensated. If you are not properly compensated and you are owing the bank, they will, instead of reporting the case, continue to sell the birds either to consumers or other farms because it affects not just the laying birds. Sometimes there are broilers and things like that. So they sell to other people. In this process, they are spreading the problem because they know they need to get back some kind of money because nobody is paying them. And that is underscoring the relevance of compensation in the control of this avian influenza virus. So if they don't appropriately compensate people, the people will not report the case. And if they don't report the case, they will continue to worsen the incidence of avian influenza. Having said that, the other thing that is very key is that, Mr. Speaker, we cannot separate our porous borders from this problem of avian influenza. Because birds are coming into this country from neighboring countries that are not properly quarantined, that are not properly vaccinated, that are not properly guided against that. We don't even know the history of these birds. So a lot of them are the mediums through which this virulent virus cuts across borders. So I also mentioned in my second prayer that we must enforce appropriate location. We have a situation in this country. Poultry is not done like that. I've had the opportunity of being trained by the United States Department of Agriculture on biosecurity measures in the fight against avian influenza. And one thing that is important that we are doing wrongly in this country is that when you have a particular part of the country, of the city where there are poultry farms, everybody is siting their poultry farm next to the other one. You cannot locate poultry farms like that. There's a minimum distance in kilometers where a poultry farm must be located in closeness or nearness to another poultry farm. Nobody is enforcing, nobody is looking at it. Then nobody is preaching, and we're not doing enough on the advocacy of biosecurity measures on how to make sure that we control our farms. A lot of this influenza virus we are buying crates. We have this concept, which should not be happening, of recycling poultry egg crates. You are buying crates. All these merchants of eggs are buying from one farm. They will bring their poultry, their carbon paper trays, or whatever trays it is that are not fumigated. They will collect the eggs from this farm. The same crates, taking the virus from your farm, they take to another farm and buy eggs again. So you cannot have control like this. So these measures of compensation is very important. The idea of enforcement of standards in locating poultry farms is very important. The control of our borders is very important. And finally, we need to continue to step up the campaign and advocacy on biosecurity measures. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, if we really want to bring back our capacity to feed ourselves as a nation, or even get to it, which is very important, it's the first step we need to get to before we go to the other levels of economic empowerment. We need to make sure that our poultry subsector is safe. At some point in time, Mr. Speaker, we're very comfortable in poultry in this country. I was part of the delegation, then as the secretary of the Poultry Association of Nigeria, I was part of the delegation that the then President Olusegun Obasanjo sent to West African countries to look at the possibilities of exporting our poultry products to these West African countries. That was where we got to. But we don't even have enough poultry. I've moved a motion on the ban of imported poultry in this country, and the question has been asked after that, how do we fill the vacuum of local consumption? So, in as much as we want to ban the one that is said that are carcinogenic, that can cause a lot of problem in public health considerations, we must preserve the industry that is supposed to provide the alternative. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I support the motion, and I think it should be taken with a sense of urgency, and of course, in line with other interventions in agriculture. It should be declared a national emergency. Thank you.